Welcome to this video on NiceGUI, a Python framework for creating web-based user interfaces. In this video, we will start with the basics of setting up a NiceGUI application, creating UI components, and handling user interactions. I'll continue to add to the application to demonstrate some of the more advanced features of NiceGUI and to highlight many of the huge number of user interface components that are available in NiceGUI. In the process, I'll show the great documentation that you will find on the NiceGUI website. I've included links in the comments section that reference some of the other excellent YouTube resources I have used to get up to speed with NiceGUI. This is a list of the topics I will be covering in this video. I'll explain why I am using NiceGUI for my Python applications that need a graphical user interface, and go over the process of initializing your Python applications. I'll introduce page layout functionality and show how to create a basic layout with page headers and footers, and how to create a tab set of pages. Here is my breakdown of the reasons I like NiceGUI. It uses a web server under the hood for rendering the user interface, which gives it access to all the user interface power of modern websites. Vue.js is the basic rendering framework that it uses. The Quasar component library provides custom components, and the Tailwind CSS library provides modern styling classes for customizing your user interface. You will see many of the extensive set of available UI elements in this video. Installing NiceGUI is a breeze. I am using the UV Project Manager to create a new project and virtual environment, and to add the NiceGUI package. Now let's open the project in VS Code and start writing some code. I'll create a file named main.py and make some simple calls to the NiceGUI API to display some text by calling methods on the global UI object, and then calling the run method to start the NiceGUI web server. I am running Python on main.py to start the application. This works because I have activated my virtual environment in this terminal. You can also use UV run to start the application without activating the virtual environment. I'll open a simple browser to view the application. The text is pretty tiny, so I'll add some styling to the label element with built-in CSS classes. The NiceGUI web server refreshes automatically when project files change. That's all it takes to get the application up and running. Next, I'll refactor a bit and show how to create a standalone application. NiceGUI gives you the option to run your application as a native desktop app. This is accomplished with a minor change to our call to the run method. I'll make that change now and also refactor the code by moving all the UI code into a new class named GUI in a new file named GUI.py. First, I need to add two new packages to the project. The Python box package gives me an enhanced dictionary that supports dot notation, and the PyWeb view is needed to create the native application window. Now let's create the new GUI class in GUI.py. The class has two member variables, one to indicate whether to run as a native app, and one to hold reactive data bindings for UI elements. The constructor just initializes these variables. The native variable will be true unless we start the application with -browser on the command line. The data variable holds the application name and some version information that I will get by looking at the output from a git command. The run method starts the application with parameters for either a native app or a web app. The render method creates our UI elements. For now, it just adds a header showing the application name and a footer with the latest get commit ID. Notice how NiceGUI leverages Python's with statement to create a context for adding child elements to a parent element. This is a great example of making good use of Python's language features to create a clean and intuitive API. Finally, I'll update the main.py file to use the new GUI class. The updates to main.py are minimal. I just need to import the GUI class, create an instance of the class, and call its run method. Here is the updated application with a header, a footer, and some styling. Because I did not include Dash Browser on the command line, the application is running as a native app. Here is how it looks in a web browser when I run with Dash Browser. Next, I'll use the NiceGUI tab element to create some tabbed pages. Back in our GUI.py file, I have added a new line in the render method that calls render tabs. And I have added a new method, render tabs, that first creates a tabs element and then adds a label to each tab to identify the tab. Here is the application with tabbed pages. Now that we have the basic structure of the application in place, I will fill out each of the pages to demonstrate a variety of UI elements that NiceGUI provides. I have organized the UI element inventory into page layout elements, text display elements, user interface controls, data display elements, and media-related elements. Next, let's turn our attention to the inventory of UI elements that NiceGUI provides. I have organized the discussion that follows to mirror the tabs in my example application and the topics in the official NiceGUI documentation. There are layout elements that organize other elements on the page, text display elements for displaying formatted text, user interface controls such as buttons and input fields, elements for visualizing data, and media elements for displaying images and video and playing audio. These are the page layout elements that NiceGUI provides. Those of you who are familiar with web development will recognize these elements. They can be found in various CSS and JavaScript frameworks. There are row and column layout elements as well as a generic grid layout option. You will also find lists, cards, scrollers, expanders, a carousel, dialogues, and notifications. The tabs element was used in our previous discussion of tabbed pages. Here are the text display elements that are available. The generic element allows you to include arbitrary HTML snippets. The HTML element is similar but provides additional structure. The Markdown and restructured elements display two popular text formatting tools. The Mermaid element displays diagrams defined in the Mermaid Diagramming and Charting tool. As you can see, there are a large number of user interface controls available in NiceGUI. Some of these, such as buttons, checkboxes, text inputs, and text area inputs, are thin wrappers around standard HTML controls. Others are custom elements that provide additional functionality beyond the standard set of HTML controls. Here are the various elements that you can use for displaying images and video content. If you aren't convinced yet of the power of NiceGUI, here are the available data display elements. You have multiple charting options, including support for Python's native plotting libraries. For tabular data, you have both a simple data table element that adds a bit of extra functionality to standard HTML tables, as well as one based on the powerful AG-Grid JavaScript library, which offers many useful features such as filtering, grouping, formatting, and pagination. Let's take a quick look at the documentation for NiceGUI controls. We are looking at the NiceGUI documentation page at nicegui.io. There are links to the various categories of UI elements on the right-hand side. Clicking any of these will take you to the documentation for that category. Here's the documentation for the data display elements from the previous slide. The options available for creating each element are documented at the top of each section, followed by sample code snippets and live examples. Clicking the See More link will take you to a more detailed documentation page for that element. Here's the final version of our demo application. The tabbed pages had been filled out with samples of many of the available UI elements in each category. I'll browse through each set of user interface elements. When I first started playing with NiceGUI, I was surprised at the selection of high-level elements. On the Data Elements page, you will find the AG grid, various charting elements, an expandable tree for hierarchical text, and even a leaflet control for displaying interactive maps. You can find a link to the full source code for this application in the video comments. Here is a summary of my thoughts on NiceGUI. It's a Python tool, which means you have access to the full power of the Python language and all of the powerful libraries that are available. It is based on browser technologies that power the awesome user interfaces we have become accustomed to on the web. And because the work of rendering the user interface is done in the browser, your application footprint will be smaller than if you use a native GUI framework. Its extensive set of UI elements should satisfy your user interface needs. This is a list of some additional resources that will be useful as you explore and incorporate the NiceGUI framework in your Python applications. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it informative and that it has demonstrated the power and ease of use of the NiceGUI framework. If you have questions, suggestions, or requests for additional software development topics, please leave them in the comments section, and please click the like and subscribe buttons if you find this video helpful.